What's up, y'all? I'm Dan Titus. That's Justin Henry, Yahoo Fantasy contributor. This is Get to the Points. And if you haven't already, make sure you download the Yahoo Fantasy app and join a public league, man. You can enter to win a $100 e-gift card at the NBA store. So buy a jersey, buy some shorts, cop whatever you want. Join a public league. That's all you got to do. So, Jay, it's been a minute since we've talked, man. And I'm not going to say Happy New Year because we were past January 4th. But how are you, brother? How you doing?
Man, everything's good on this side. Fantasy football is done. So now I'm all in on these fantasy hoop leagues. You know, I got a couple of leagues. We got a league. And I hear a little bit of chatter sometimes in these leagues. But now these basketball leagues got all my attention. So look out. About you,
yes,
man?
Yes, sir. You are, respect to you. You are first in our league that we're in together. But don't worry about it. I'm right behind you, man. I plan on taking that number one spot very soon. But let's get to the shoot around, man. It is silly season. Trade rumors are flying left and right. But I want to know, who's the player you want to see traded the most right now in the NBA?
I think for me, it's got to be Zach LaVine. And this is a player whose name has been floated around throughout the entire first part of this season. And we know he's unhappy with his role. We know that some type of move is going to be made with this Bulls team. They're at the bottom of the Eastern Conference when it comes to the playoff standings, and they're more of a play-in team, probably more on the outskirts looking in team than they are an actual team going to be playing. So I want to see him playing meaningful minutes. His efficiency's down this year, scoring's down. You could just tell this isn't the same Zach LaVine we've been accustomed to. Give me Zach LaVine on a contender, maybe even the Kings.
Ooh, the Kings. I like that. Okay. Sacramento, I see you going for your hometown bias, but like, hey, we just got to get Zach LaVine off the bench first and foremost, and then let's see what happens after that, man. Dude is clearly disgruntled, needs a new situation, but I'm going to go to the A for mine. DeJounte Murray. Get this man back to San Antonio. The Hawks record with DeJounte Murray, 52 and 57. It's clearly not working. His rebounds and his assists are down since going to Atlanta. What better way to fix Popovich's experimentation and point guard carousel than to get the guy that was an all-star under your regime? DeJounte Murray, get that man back to San Antonio. Everything will be great playing alongside a generational talent like Victor Wembanyama.
The Jeremy Shohan experience. Gotta go. Gotta go at this point.
It's gotta go. You don't trust Trey Jones either. So it's like, just stop. Go get DeJounte. You know it works. This man nearly put up a triple-double as the point guard for the San Antonio Spurs. So it just makes too much sense.
Get him back in Pop's system. I agree with that, man. But, you know, we talked about trade rumors, but there's been a lot of injuries too, Dan. And I think let's take a look at some of these injuries that are affecting fantasy basketball and the outlook of that moving forward. The first one's probably the most impactful. Ja Morant going to be out with a shoulder injury for the rest of the season. It was somewhat unexpected, happened late over the weekend. What are your thoughts on this process moving forward?
Man, it just sucks. And then on top of that, you know, Marcus Smart's been going off the last 3 games, and then he has to get an MRI on his finger. We don't know what the prognosis of that is, but right now it's looking bad for the Grizzlies. I mean, Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. are going to continue to go off, but like, what do you do after that from a fantasy perspective? The guy I'm adding is Vince Williams Jr. He's the only guy left. He's good defensively. He kind of reminds me of Herb Jones a little bit. He can shoot, and he's great defensively. So I think that's going to be the add if you're going to be looking to fantasy, if you're going to be looking to the waiver wires to pick up a player. How about you?
Yeah, sneaky ad too. I think Luke Kennard, just knowing that you can get some threes out of him, good efficiency. Luke Kennard is a sneaky ad when it comes to your deeper leagues. Obviously, your more shallow leagues, it's probably wait and see. But I think Luke Kennard is a player that I'd be looking at.
Yeah, and then let's go to the Bay for a second, man. It came out that, Chris Paul fractured his hand. He had surgery. He's going to be missing 4 to 6 weeks. I think this is a good thing for Brandon Pajemski because I feel like this rookie is just going to continue to get minutes, and now he's going to have the opportunity. Even though he was getting starters minutes before, he could be even more effective in that second unit because they need someone to facilitate the offense. And what we've seen from him is that he's been a really good rebounder and person that can generate stocks. He's a great on-ball defender, but I think now his role when he played in college in Santa Clara was a point guard. So I think we'll start to see his assists go up. This is going to be a good move for him.
That's your boy too. But I kind of think the return of Mr. Angry Man, Draymond Green, hopefully we get the calm, chill version of that now. But he gets to take on a little bit more of that point guard role as well. We've been accustomed to seeing. Clay's minutes will now go up again. But the player I'm looking at has also been clamoring for more minutes. We saw Steve Kerr make an emphasis to get Jonathan Kuminga more minutes. Moses Moody is a player now that could also see an increase in play. So I think that the time that he's out, whether it's 4 or 6 weeks, however long, Moses Moody's a player to keep an eye on in fantasy leagues.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see if the Warriors decide to do anything at the trade deadline here, because Wiggins has been awful. And then you have the younger players like Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga playing really well. So, yeah, something's got to come to a head at some point. And we'll see Draymond Green, how he sits back into this situation. But Steve Kerr said he's not going to be starting right away. But, you got to expect Draymond's going to be in there if they're going to try to win games.
Yeah. And it comes to point guards.
Yeah.
When it comes to point guards, too, it's like we got Ja, CP3, but Tyrese Halliburton. We saw the way he was like stretching out on the floor, man. That looked like it could have been a really bad injury, and hopefully it's something we see him back on the floor sooner than later. Been playing at an incredible level this year. Talk about your thoughts on this Pacer team, man. Has a lot of young players, a lot of opportunity with Tyrese Halliburton on the shelf.
Bro, when that happened, I was just like, no, this is probably the worst thing that could happen. Like, this is like a fantasy MVP we're talking about here, going down for what looked like could be a long-term injury. But fortunately, the fantasy guys were with us. It's only going to be a grade 1 strain, so he'll be out for a couple of weeks. But TJ McConnell's probably not available in most leagues right now. I know he was a very popular pickup yesterday when waivers hit, because this guy's going to be very effective in Tyrese Halliburton's absence. When he missed 10 games last year, 15 points per game, 6 rebounds, 8 dimes. That's the type of upside you can expect with TJ McConnell getting more minutes. Now, if you miss out on him, I do think there's an opportunity to get Andrew Nembhard, another guy that I think is going to benefit from that point guard spot, getting more minutes in that rotation.
Yeah, that's a guy, I had to sneak him up in our league real quick. Andrew Nembhard,
I seen it.
I think there's going to be opportunity for one of those guards, and it'll be, the savvier players are going to be watching. The more shallow leagues will have an opportunity to pick some of these guys up. But don't sleep on the expanded opportunity for Aaron Nesmith as well, who's been balling here over the last few weeks.
He's been a top 60 guy over the last 2 weeks, man. He was one of my top pickups this week. He's still under rostered for everything that he can do. He's a Swiss Army knife for the Pacers offense. But we'll talk about him in a little bit. I have a funny feeling. But yeah, man. Also, Cade Cunningham, unfortunately, he sustained a left knee sprain. Doesn't look serious, so fortunately, fantasy managers can also breathe a sigh of relief. What are you doing from a Detroit perspective? Because I'm adding. If Jaden Ivey's not available, I'm looking at Alec Burks, man. The veteran seems to still continue to stay in this rotation. He hits threes, he scores a lot, and he's doing a little bit of the assisting and rebounding as well, man. I think that there's actually an opportunity for him to be fantasy viable for the next couple of weeks here.
Yeah, I would hope that Jaden Ivey would be available in your league, but if not, I'm probably staying away, to be honest, just because this Detroit Pistons team, they're so up and down. I know they're playing, they're trying to get these wins, get out of the gutter. But for me, there's a lot of other better fantasy options available than trying to piece these things together. Alec Burks is also a different, he's a good option, I'd say, but that's if you're desperate or in a deeper league, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel that. And if you're in deep leagues, I think Marcus Sasser is probably going to enter the rotation again. But as you said, Detroit is not good. You watched the game last night, man. They were
staying away from Killian Hayes.
Yeah, no Killian Hayes season. I'm good on that too. Although his assists have been nice, but everything else that comes with it, the poor field goal percentage, I'll pass. But let's talk about some players that stock is either up or down. This one was really interesting to me, man. We were texting about it beforehand, and I hadn't realized how bad it's gotten for one dude in New Orleans, and that's Zion Williamson. Talk to me about why you're kind of tinkering on that panic mode for Zion Williamson.
I'm a really big Zion advocate, and when you see the guy getting in shape and putting up 27 points, it's easy to see what we saw in college out of this dude. And this is a player that has explosive athleticism, can put up 20 and 10 on any given night. And what we're seeing is a dialed back version of that. And with all the weight concerns, that's not even the biggest issue to me. It's the fact that this team is finally getting healthy. CJ McCollum is back now. Larry Nance is back. Trey Murphy came back earlier in the year. And it's like, this team is so deep that Zion doesn't have to score 27 points a game anymore. And for me, that's a concern, because you're drafting him basically for field goal percentage, points, and rebounds. That's it. And if his scoring is down 7 points on the year, he's only averaging 21 points a game. This is a career low for Zion. I have my concerns. This is a guy I'd be looking to sell, because it doesn't seem like it's getting any better.
I think it's a good point, man, because I think the allure in the name, and we talk about this before, about certain players that are probably better in real life than they are in fantasy. I think Zion Williamson is probably one of those people that would categorize as that, because like in fantasy, while he's great at field goal percentage and scores a lot, he doesn't hit threes, doesn't barely even attempt them. He's horrible at free throws, and he doesn't really do that much for stocks. So at that point, you're like at a deficiency. So like where you're getting him is like a, in the 50th round, 50th pick in your drafts, he's not living up to the hype. So I think there is a legitimate chance that you could probably sell him for, a player that maybe doesn't have the name notoriety, but is getting better production. Because you see Zion Williams, it's like, oh snap, let me get him on my team. Like,
go ship Zion for Keegan Murray, and you can get way more efficient guy without the name value. And yeah, I know it's Keegan Murray, like we have that, but Zion in himself can probably go get a Keegan Murray, and the person who gets Zion is gonna think they won. This guy's not even playing in the end of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and Jonas Valanciunas has been playing well. I think that was what you hit on. It was like the health of the New Orleans Pelicans is what's really tipped this scale for, pun intended, for Zion Williamson, because everyone's playing well. It's literally everyone's playing well. It's crazy. On my side of things, man, I'm getting concerned about Walker Kessler. And before I was trying to give it some time. We always try to preach patience and waiting this out for some of your star players, but this dog's not hunting. And I don't know that he's going to be able to get this minutes back. Like, he's only playing 20 minutes. He's coming off the bench. Like, John Collins is getting minutes at center. You're getting minutes from Omar Yurtseven. Kelly Olynyk is still in the mix. I don't know what Will Hardy's doing, but he's becoming Monty Williams in terms of like the amount of different mixtures of rotations and players that he's putting together, the combination. And it's just not working right. His blocks are still great, but those minutes are definitely a concern. And if you can offload him for someone that can give you more stats other than the blocks, I would do it. I would move on for Walker Kessler.
Yeah, he had so much more opportunity last season. And I think coming into this year, it was easy to be like, okay, young player developing, going to get more opportunity. Yeah. And that's stymied. And it's like, to see Kelly Olynyk out there playing 30 minutes a night, it's tough because you know what kind of player Walker Kessler is. So I agree with you there on the panic.
We talked about Aaron Nesmith a little bit earlier. Tell me why he's a player that you think you should stash going forward.
Yeah, this is a guy that, Aaron Nesmith is a player that, for me, will have a lot more opportunity. And there's rumors right now with this Pacer team about Buddy Hield being moved. And for Aaron Nesmith already, who's been, seen an uptick in production and usage, Tyrese Halliburton's on the shelf for a little bit. This is a player that the Pacers need to develop in order to maintain their status in the Eastern Conference as one of these young up-and-coming teams. And, defensively, he provides you a steal a game, almost a block a game, provides you 2 threes a game. This is a player that's going to be, he's an efficient player. Like, maybe he doesn't get you 5 assists a game. He doesn't get you 8 boards a game, but he does everything else so well. He's one of those glue guys for your fantasy team. I'm buying Aaron Nesmith, and especially as the season goes on, his role is going to increase.
Yeah. And like, as we talked about before, man, like, I think he's one of those guys that, like, on one hand, he might have a really good scoring night. He's been extremely efficient from 3-point land. I think that's what's kind of kept him on the court along with his hustle. But like, even if he doesn't do certain things, he'll always give you something, whether it's steals, blocks, threes, rebounds. Like, if it doesn't all coalesce at one time, it's going to happen at some point. He's still under 50% roster to me, which is just extremely
insane. That's
insane. He's just so undervalued right now, considering that he's a top 100 player. He's top 80 right now in fantasy. So, this is our public service announcement. Go get Aaron Nesmith if he's on waivers
right now.
So I'm going a different route with it. Still a young player, but if I'm a contending team, this is how I'm looking at it. There's about half the season left, a little bit less. We're at week 12 and the playoffs usually start around week 20. So you got like 8 weeks left. I'm starting to look at those teams that are tanking and have young players. So I'm looking at people like Scoot Henderson. I'm looking at Brandon Miller. I'm looking at specifically Asar Thompson. So to me, Asar Thompson fits the bill of a player that I think is going to be a person that you'll want to roster in the playoffs, in the fantasy playoffs, because with Detroit continuing to lose, and now that Cade Cunningham is going to be missing like 10 days, this team's going to continue to rack up losses. And as much as they want to hide behind the guise of, oh, we're not going to be sellers at the market, you got no choice. Like, Bojan Bogdanovic is not going to want to continue to play for this losing team. They're going to start offloading assets. And when that happens, Asar Thompson's finally going to get the minutes that we saw earlier in the season when this guy was a top 70 guy, just doing pretty much everything except scoring at a high rate. But the rebounds, the blocks, the steals, the assists, the playmaking, like, this guy does everything. So this is a guy that I'm definitely going to be stashing. And his rostership is just dropping week by week because he's not getting minutes. If I'm in a contending team, anywhere between 1 and 4 in my standings, I'm picking up Asar Thompson. I'm going to hold that.
Well, that's a great point. And when you're looking at your roster, you also have to see, do I have a lot of vets? Do I have guys with more opportunity? Because in March, in top of April, when fantasy playoffs are, eh, your roster doesn't care about the veterans. They're going to
No.
sit, they're going to monitor injuries heading into the playoffs. The young guys get the opportunity. And so a guy like Asar Thompson is going to see an uptick in minutes. These are players I'd be betting on to have a larger role late in the year, because once teams are out of playoff contention or don't think that they have a chance at the championship, is typically when we see these guys start to get folded in, and these older players start to rest a little bit more.
Yep, I see that. Speaking of older players, bro, you trying to sell high on LeBron James? What? Yo, that is man, that's coming from you. You're a Lakers guy and you're saying sell LeBron? God, let me hear more about this.
It's tough, man, because when you got a guy like LeBron, you know what he is. And I think that for a playoff team, yeah, I'd still be trying to buy. But like, if I'm really trying to sell on the name value of LeBron James, the reason why I'm doing this is because we've seen this trend with LeBron before. When the team is bad, unless they make some kind of move, when the team is bad, we start to see LeBron towards the end of the season take care of LeBron, whether it's maintaining injuries, getting additional rest days. 39 years old LeBron is looking more forward to playing with Bronny than he is this season, it seems like, to be winning an NBA championship. And you know, the Darvingham coaching thing going on right now, there's a lot of negative clouds when it comes to this Laker organization. I love LeBron, love the Lakers, but in fantasy, my goal is to win. And this is a player I'm concerned about later on in the season for that nagging ankle injury, or maybe, you know, they just want to let AD shine and get some more MVP votes. Like, I'm a little concerned when it comes to LeBron James. So as far as the numbers, I think for now it's good, but I'm looking at that championship fantasy playoffs wise, and that's where I start to get concerned when it comes to one LeBron James.
Yeah, I feel like that's fair because he's 39 years old, man. Like at some point, like he's gotten hurt each of the last several seasons. If the Lakers aren't in that spot, man, I totally agree with you. That's like the point where he's gonna be like, let me take care of myself. And if we're not gonna figure this out, Rob, that being Rob Pelinka, we might be looking to the summer, you know, the off season a little bit earlier than usual. So I get it. But I can't not say LeBron James has been a beast all season, and he actually wound up being a value considering, like, I've seen him drop, you know, third, fourth round in a lot of cases. He's been a top 24 player all year. So yeah, shouts to Bron, but
definitely not for the play. It's for the circumstances.
Right. And I'll say for circumstances too, from my guy that I would sell, it's Terry Rozier. And it's crazy how good Terry Rozier has been over the last month and a half, or at least since LaMelo Ball's been out, man. He's currently ranked inside the top 24 in fantasy basketball, 9 cat leagues. That's crazy. He was the number 7 player overall last week. If that doesn't scream sell high, I don't know what does. And it's not me saying, like, similar to what you just said, it's not about the production. It's about the situation. LaMelo Ball is going to return. He's already back to practicing. They haven't given him a timetable yet, and the Charlotte Hornets are literally the worst team with injury reporting. However, he's going to be back within, I think, the next couple of weeks, or at least by the All-Star break. And once that happens, I think we'll see that usage and opportunity for Terry Rozier go down. So strike now while there's still an opportunity to before LaMelo returns, because by that time, it'll be too late. So yeah, I love it. I got Terry Rozier in a couple spots, and I'm already looking to do that deal. Like, these are moves that I would make myself, so I wouldn't tell y'all about it if I wouldn't do it.
Well, don't send me no deals, because I already know I'm going to reject now. That's an auto reject. If you send them to me, it's an auto reject. But
don't send any deals. He doesn't want to give you any deals anyway, man. He's sitting here trying to get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for, like, DeJounte Murray out in these streets.
Hey, sometimes you need depth. And when you're a losing team and you're at the bottom of the standings, I'm going to send some help your way. You know, it's a good point, though. Like, at the end of the day, you got to be ahead of the curve. And I think playing a week ahead, and sometimes maybe you give up instant production for a little bit further down the line. That's a good point when it comes to Terry Rozier, especially because we know LaMelo, the usage is crazy for him.
For sure, it is. And last, real quick, just want to get your thoughts on the Toronto deal. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but just want to know your general thoughts, like from a fantasy perspective. Who won? Who lost? What are you doing with it?
I think there's a load of opportunity for this Toronto team. Scotty Barnes, I know he's not struggled, but he hasn't been the same since the deal has happened. I'd expect his production to increase as the year goes on. Sneaky pickup. Thad Young now enters the starting lineup, but I think where this gets really spicy, no pun intended, is when Spicy P gets dealt. There's going to be ample opportunity for Barrett, Vic. Like, this entire team is going to have some sneaky fantasy production.
Yeah, that's where I was at with it, man. Like, I think so. I actually just picked up Thad Young today, so shout to you for telling me that. Jumping the gun, taking my moves. But yeah, I think this is actually going to benefit RJ Barrett the most, man. And I think that he's actually had a coming out party going back to his hometown in Ontario, his home country. I think he's going to become a fan favorite, and he's already showing it. Like, he just looks like a new player in this offense. So I think that's someone that's going to actually hold value, someone that I wasn't considering. Like, I dropped him in our league because I was worried about his role going forward with the Knicks. He was playing above expectation, but now, especially if Spicy P moves, watch out Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett for the rest of the season. All right, that'll do it for Get to the Point. We'll see you next time.